Today we're going to change the brake pads and remove the entire caliper assembly from this early 280ZX. It's the one with they call it the elephant ear style calipers. So starting with the brake pads here, really the only thing holding these pads in are these metal clips right here. So these metal clips you're going to kind of pry off and remove. There's this one little bright silver on this on mine that you're going to remove also. And then these two pins, 1 and 2, we'll just be able to pull straight out, and that will release these pads. It's possible you might just be able to work your pads out. Even though my parking brake is not set and I can turn the hub freely, these just are not coming out. They're very, very tight. So what I'm going to do is actually remove the whole caliper assembly anyways, because I'm going to refinish it, and I want to rebuild the seals inside the caliper also. So in order to do that, we're going to have to disconnect the brake line. So here's where the brake line connects into the caliper. Mine is definitely seized here. I've put a lot of penetrant in here and still not been able to break this one loose, so I'm going to leave that one alone. And I'm just going to disconnect from where the hard line meets the, in my case, a braided line. I have the hose separated from the hard line, and I just took a rubber glove and kind of used a bolt and shoved it up there to just plug the hose. Some fluid's still going to leak out, and again, even if I didn't plug it, I wouldn't lose too much in this process anyways, but it just makes me feel. We're going to disconnect the parking brake line. So this is just a cotter pin that you need to straighten back out and knock through this hole right here. To remove the e-brake cable out of this bracket after you've taken the cotter pin out, just grab this lever arm and pull it back, and then you'll have plenty of room with your other hand just to work this free out the back side of this, no problem. Once the e-brake cable is free from this bracket and it came out up here, we can remove this clip and then disconnect the whole cable from the whole caliper assembly here. Now that the e-brake cable has been removed from here, there's nothing connecting the caliper assembly to the rest of the car, so except for the 2 bolts right in the back of it. So we're just going to remove those 2 bolts. And those are these 2 big bolts right here. There's one on the bottom and there's another one like it on the top. Here's a view of that top bolt, 17 millimeters. You can see that this kind of the strut's in the way, so you need to probably use an extension so you can get your ratchet head beyond all of this crap here. After those 2 bolts have been removed, you'll be able to just work this entire caliper assembly completely off the rotor and hub. Obviously, be careful of this line as you're removing it, since it's still connected to the caliper if you didn't remove it from the caliper itself. Caliper's off, pads came out. Interesting. There's original Nissan pads, which is pretty cool. But now we're going to take the piston assembly out of the elephant ear, because we've got to rebuild all the seals on the side. The seals on the other side started leaking, and it's I replaced those, but we're going to do this so we have left and right side matching pairs, because if that one went, this one's sure to go at some point. I can already see maybe some damage here to the seal. But really it's the seals inside the piston we're worried about, not so much this dust cover here. The piston is not actually attached to the elephant ear in any significant way. It's just kind of held in here. So if you just like hold the elephant ear still and pull here, the whole thing will come apart. All right, and then you just kind of like work it out puzzle-wise through the hole so you can get everything out. And then you can rebuild this, which I'll do in a separate video. And then you can also, in my case, I'm going to completely clean this thing up and probably paint it blue to match my car. Back up here, you can pry that off and then remove this spring off here. With the spring removed, now there's not tension on this piece, so it'll let us manipulate this piece so that we can work off some of these seals and get them kind of like around this whole thing. Just give us some more room to work. This dust cap on the back of the piston is held on by like a metal ring. This ring had come loose and wasn't really holding the dust cover on very well, but actually this cover is still in good shape. I might reuse it even though I have a new one. Yeah. And at this point you can take that whole back part of the piston and just kind of wiggle it back and forth and work it out, and it'll just come out of the rest of the assembly. So you can see that there's threading here on this piston on both sides, male and female, and these are supposed to be connected, actually, not supposed to be easy to separate from that. So probably mine were not properly seated before. But at any rate, this entire piece here on my left side pushes through also. So you could pull the entire piston out of this housing. So had they been connected properly, when I worked this piece out and pulled it out of this housing, the entire assembly would have come out like that. And then here you can see these other seals in here that we're going to replace later too. On the caliper housing, there's another one of these dust covers with this little metal ring, just tension holding it in place. So you'll pop that off, and then this seal also you'll take off and inspect and replace if necessary. So I've taken this entire caliper piston and you slide it out from the housing. And let's take a look at the seal kit. This is a Raybestos seal kit, and we can see what it comes with. It comes with the front and back outer dust shields and a little retaining ring for those. So that's the one shield that goes right on the front edge here, and there'll be a similar one that goes right on the back edge here. So those are those two seals, and then this is for the bleeders, the bleeder valve. But then you have these two seals here, and these two seals are the ones that are inside the caliper housing. You can see them there, so you need to pick those out and then replace those. All right, so I use this pick to pick out these two seals that are on the inside of the piston and replace them, and then put some lube around them, and then we're going to insert the piston back in. It's the same seal for the front side and the back side. This inner part of the seal is going to go inside this little groove right here, and on the back side it'll go inside that little groove right here, and the outer part is going to surround this outer groove here and this outer groove here, which is where the retaining ring holds it in place. Here's the front side seal put back in place. I used the old metal retaining ring because it was fine, and I actually like it better than this like little skinny one that the kit came with. To put the backside one on, you have to kind of work it around the lever where the e-brake cable was attached to, and just kind of stretch it over all these things, and then eventually you'll be able to get this onto the back of the piston. Backside seal is now installed, and so we're just going to put the spring back into place over here. This little hook end goes in first. It's going to come around this little mushroom head right here, and then once it's caught on that, you're going to take this bottom part that's longer, and you're going to use tension to get it all the way up till it hooks onto here. We've got all the seals replaced in the caliper, so it's time to reassemble it to the elephant ear. You can see I painted mine blue just for fun. These clips that came off originally, you see this little tab right there hooks into the top of this hole. So this one is going to come in on this side, and this one's going to come in on this side. So you got to get those in first. All right, once you have these two tension clips back in place here, you're going to put this in, and the way you're going to do it is you're going to kind of slide this e-brake bracket in first this way, and then you'll work it in to this cradle. All right, now this is generally in place. You can see this piece has to slide all the way back so that notch gets seated in here. And what's happening is this little clip right here is providing tension. So you're going to squeeze down on this clip as you get it into this channel right here where my thumb is. That channel is one on this side, and there's a corresponding channel on the other side where that other clip is. So you got to squeeze those down and get this pushed back into the back of that bracket. At some point during that process, and you can do it at the beginning, you're going to take this clip, it's going to slide in this channel right here, and these parts here on the ends that hook back are supposed to get onto the other side of this bracket to provide tension. So you just have to figure out how to get all these things together. It just takes some finagling. Once you get everything set back in there properly, you have to do one last thing, which you're going to have to turn this piston so that one of these notches is exactly sticking out the top here in between this way, because that notch is necessary for the back of the brake pad to set into when you install it. the simplest way to rotate that piston is with this attachment. This is from a brake windback tool, and these two fit into those notches, and then you can put a ratchet head in here and rotate the way you need to go. All right, I wound it all the way back, and plenty of room for the new pads, and this notch is in this position where the back of the brake pad will fit into. We've reattached the two 17mm bolts holding the caliper to the hub, and then you can see also reattach the brake line right here, and then we refed the e-brake cable through here. The easiest way to actually get this back in to this is just to pull this lever arm back, and then you can slide it in place and then release it, and then of course replace the cotter pin at the end of it. The new pads are just going to slide in, one here and then one facing the other way on this side of the rotor, and then you can use the old hardware, or if you have new hardware that came with your pad kit, to secure these pads in place. After you've got the pads installed, just make sure you bleed the brake at the corner where you disconnected the lines, because there will have been air that's gotten in the system at that place. If you adjusted pads, then you didn't undo any brake lines, you don't have to bleed anything at this point.